Hello, this is Jonathan Springer, and this is my friend Danny Montenegro. He is an independent filmmaker who does just about everything.
Yeah, it's wear many hats.
So, what was your first job in film, or the first thing that
Um,
got you started?
well, I used to work for ABC Television back in the 90s. I worked on a television show called Thump in the Night. It was a stop motion animation show, and I built stop motion sets, miniature sets. Um, and then after that, I just done some TD work here and there, nothing too spectacular. Consulting for friends, uncredited technical direction on a few films I can't talk about. Like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But recently, though, within the last, within the last 5 years, I worked on a film called The Damned with the Kiros brothers, a low-budget vampire film, starring Todd Bridges. Then I did visual effects for them. And then recently, within the last 2 years, I edited a film called, with the Kiros brothers as well. It's called Deliverance from Evil. It was a horror film about possession, and I was the chief editor on that, and I did all the visual effects on it. And some ADR, not all, although I wasn't the ADR on that, but it was a lot of fun. And that was with Victor Miller. He's the guy who wrote Friday the 13th. He's the creator of Jason, so it's a little King Claim film. Very low budget film, but a very independent, ambitious project.
Okay, and what was your first job then?
In the TV or film industry would have to be ABC Television. I worked for. I did some concept work before that was for unproduced projects, but it never made it to the screen. But yeah, I've just done some technical direction here and there on a few other films. But again, I can't really talk about it because if I get somebody
It's
in
like,
trouble.
yeah, under contract.
Well,
So,
the idea is that they ran into a wall. They have a budget. I mean, not a budget. They have a deadline, and they may not know something or some particular piece of software. And then I'll come in. They'll give me the scene. I'll come in. Um, I'm not writing code, but I can deal with what I call expressions, and I can translate them. Um, and also a few times I worked on what's called match moving for some people. But again, all uncredited, more of like, under uncredited.
and you've already mentioned a few films you've worked on. Any other that you're particularly proud of working on?
I was really happy with editing the entire Deliverance from Evil, even though it was a low-budget film shot on prosumer off-the-shelf cameras. It's an 80-minute film. Just getting through there and editing the whole thing, just working really closely with the director, that was really fulfilling, and that kind of like inspired me because I was like, hey, this is what real films look like. So, and currently I'm working on a personal project, and hopefully that will be like my kind of like established me as a local filmmaker. I'm pretty happy about that.
Okay, and what are some suggestions for new people? I'm out of the camera there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some suggestions for new people getting into the film industry, either mainstream or indie?
Well, I can say off the bat, don't be too proud to think that you know everything about film because there's so many ways of tackling a narrative that watch old films. Don't just don't dispel something because it's old or that it's not may not be popular. There's a lot of really good films out there. Also study the masters. Look at Kurosawa's work. Look at Alfred Hitchcock's work. Stanley Kubrick's work is really amazing. It's very inspirational and amazing director. Also study literature. If you want to write and direct, you should study screenwriting. Um, Sid Field is a great place to start. Although there's other people that go off in different directions. Like there's a handful of names like Blake Edwards and Robert McKee. The people. But the thing is also is like read everything that you can and formulate your own opinion from what you read and your exposure to.
And what do you think are like some strengths and weaknesses like an independent film has compared to one of the mainstream studio films?
Well, the advantage of being an independent filmmaker is that you can create and have your own voice. You don't have to worry about necessarily the money involved in your project dictating what you're seeing. A lot of times the film is made and, there are people behind it and money and they want their particular point of view expressed within the film. Whereas an independent filmmaker, you could put in anything you want. You can say and do anything you want. The disadvantages, to be very specific, the disadvantages are sets and large crews and hardware and software. Like an independent guy, you can You know, you can get some off-the-shelf software. I would say Final Cut Pro, but Final Cut Pro is kind of dead in the water right now. I don't know what they're thinking, but at one point they were a really great program to learn is Premiere, and that's industry standard. Everybody like, you know, if you learn that, you can go pretty much anywhere in the world and say, you know, oh, I know Premiere, and you can get a job editing. The big three were Avid is still big, Premiere is really big, probably bigger than anybody right now, and Final Cut was the program to use, and then they came out with their X version, and it just basically got rid. They just effectively shot themselves in the foot. So, I mean, you have the top editors like Walter Murch and Taku Fujimoto, I think, used that as well. And even they are, as industry professionals, kind of like shaking their head, like, why did they do that? What are they doing? So I would say learn Premiere. As far as 3D goes, I would say, I mean, I'm a single person team that I do all my own 3D visual effects. I learned Cinema 4D. It's not a very popular package, and it's not the most powerful one on the market. It can accomplish some pretty good things, but it's not like Maya. Maya is like more of a production, and again, that comes into big production. So, like, if you wanted to, learn Maya, that would be production ready. You could go into a larger studio and get a job. You know, Maya, 3D Studio's really popular, mostly for video games, and then Lightwave's trying to make a comeback. That was the first 3D program that I ever learned that was a real program that that did real stuff. But I don't know. I'm hopeful because it's a great piece of software. But and Softimage, as much as it is this 800-pound gorilla of 3D animation, and it's powerful. It's Maya and Softimage are the two top-ranked programs. Softimage, it's as powerful it is. It lacks a wider user base as opposed to like 3D Studio Max, which is used on most every video game you play now. Maya, 3D Studio are like the two ways to go. But learn some 3D. Again, if you want to go with if you want to go where you want to tailor yourself to work in a big industry, learn a package like 3D Studio Max or Houdini or Maya. But if you're your own personal self and don't really care about like working for other companies and learning something for just to be your own visual effects artist. Again, I use Cinema 4D. Lightwave's good. Trying to think of another one if there's another good 3D program out there. And there's some free software too. There's Blender, and some people do some really amazing stuff with Blender, but I personally it wasn't for me. But yeah, they just you can. And the thing about large productions too is that they have money to throw at problems. You run into a problem, and they just keep throwing money at it and figuring situations. Whereas an independent filmmaker could, the strength is in the planning. So you can take a little more time in your development phase to get things together, figure them out before you go and shoot. So that when you do go and shoot, you have everything planned out. Whereas again, a larger production would just throw money at it, and they would have larger sets and more people.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, and
No problem.
hopefully this will help the next generation of filmmakers. This is Jonathan Springer and Danny Montenegro, and this has been Saints Reviews.